Good morning, Little Masters, and welcome back to today's Tolkien Times. I'm the Man of the West, also from the Prancing Pony podcast. Let's get started with Week 16's Word Nerd Wednesday. Now, tomorrow on Third Age Thursday, I'll finish up the chapter Homeward Bound, as our four hobbits return to the beginning and approach the Shire. It's as good a time as any, I think, then, to talk about the word Shire, and another related word, farthing. Now, of course, we all know about the Shire, and as Tolkien fans, we instinctively know that Bilbo Baggins is from the Shire. So it's easy to forget that in Tolkien's first book, The Hobbit, Bilbo's homeland is never referred to as the Shire, not once. Instead, he's said to come from the hill, and even from Hobbiton, but never the Shire. Tolkien doesn't use the word Shire until the prologue to The Lord of the Rings, and he quickly defines it as the region of the authority of their thane, which is divided into four quarters, the farthings. Now, these are both tremendous words that I wanted to talk about, so, well, that's precisely what I'm going to do. I'm sure it will come as a huge shock to all of you that both words have their origins in Old English words that have fallen out of common use. And as he so often does, Tolkien has brought them back. Shire is the modern equivalent of Old English shire, meaning administrative district or jurisdiction. In Anglo-Saxon times, the Shire was the typical administrative division of the kingdom. It was the local government. England was divided into shires the way it's now divided into counties. In fact, they started as two words for the same thing. When the Normans conquered England, they used the French word comté, county, the realm of a count, to translate the Old English word shire. By the 14th century, county replaced the word shire in everyday use, but it still exists as seen in various place names. Many of the modern counties of England and Scotland and Wales still have shire in their names: Lancashire, Oxfordshire, Yorkshire, and so on. Now, we'll also run into the sheriffs soon. Well, soon in the book, maybe not soon on Third Age Thursdays. So it may come as no surprise to learn that the two, shire and sheriff, are directly connected. Tolkien's sheriff, which is a play on our English word sheriff, comes from Middle English shir reeve, high crown official having various legal and administrative duties within a jurisdiction. Shir meaning jurisdiction, and reeve, in turn, coming from Old English yrifa, king's officer. Farthing, on the other hand, just means a fourth part of something. It comes from Old English feorthing, which is a derivative of the common word for a fourth, feortha. It was used in Old English to refer to a fourth part of an area of land, such as a fourth of a hide or a quarter of an acre. Now, I can't find any source that says the Anglo-Saxons used it as an official administrative division, like the hobbits with their north, south, east, and west farthings. But, and a big hat tip to Sean on this, back when he researched this, he found that Iceland was once divided exactly like that. So it was very much a Germanic thing. Now, in fairness, when most of us think of a farthing, we are thinking of British currency. There was a British coin called a farthing that was worth a fourth of a penny that had been minted since the Middle Ages. And it was around well into the 20th century, back in the days of the old pre-decimal currency system of Britain. You know, the pounds, shillings, pence days, which actually weren't that long ago. We've referenced that a few times in talking about the pricing of The Lord of the Rings on Tolkien Tuesdays. Now, what's fascinating about that, though, is that there is another French word that sort of took over in everyday use, just as county overtook shire. It can also mean specifically a geographic area, or at least here in the States, a unit of currency. And that word, well, I actually said it earlier, quarter. So what Tolkien is doing by using these words shire and farthing as official terms for units of Hobbit government, such as it is that he's resurrecting these Old English words that have fallen out of use and been replaced by French-derived terms. It's a bit more of that right English goodliness of speechcraft that I've talked about here and that's come up on the PPP more than a few times. A return to native English, that is, Germanic-derived words. And it has an effect beyond just reinforcing his personal preference for Germanic words. Since these words actually exist in the past of our language, their use here gives them a kind of archaic quality, a remoteness, and a pastoral sense that they wouldn't have had if he just called it the county or the South Quarter. So maybe I need to stop using those Frenchified words and tell people that I live in the South Farthing of Orange Shire, California. Here's the thing. The more we dig into Tolkien's works and the more we unveil the etymology of the words that Tolkien very carefully chose, the more impressive his work becomes. Still, folks, that is it for today's Word Nerd Wednesday and for this series, Word Nerd Wednesdays. But come back in 3 weeks as we wander the wide, wild, wonderful world of words weekly on Wednesdays. And if there is a word you want to know more about, please let me know by emailing barliman@theprancingponypodcast.com. Please visit patreon.com/TolkienTimes to learn how you can support the show and get an ad-free feed, a monthly hangout with me, a bonus weekly episode, and a lot more. And finally, join me again tomorrow on today's Tolkien Times for Third Age Thursday. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Please follow or subscribe in your podcast apps, and follow @Tolkien Times on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Finally, as Faramir says, go with the goodwill of all good men.